Asteroid warning. Rock bigger than Empire State Building shooting towards Earth. An asteroid bigger than the Empire State Building, which has been branded potentially hazardous, is moving towards Earth this week. The object, known as Asteroid 2006 QQ23, is expected to skim past Earth within a week. The celestial body is around 570 meters in diameter and is one of around 6 asteroids of this size that come by Earth each year. NASA has dispelled concerns that the rock, which has been branded as potentially hazardous, will hit Earth. Planetary defense officers for NASA, Lindsey Johnson and Kelly Fast, told CNN that there is nothing to fear. Ms. Fast said, "It's the ones we don't know about that we're concerned about." Mr. Johnson even said the asteroid was more or less benign. The asteroid is expected to skim past Earth at a distance of 7.4 million kilometers on August the 10th, and that's tomorrow. An asteroid of this magnitude could destroy an enormous area of Earth. I don't know. I think it would get struck by a thunderbolt. That's probably what happened at Tunguska. A significantly smaller meteor, which was just 17 meters wide, exploded near the Russian city of Chelyabinsk in 2013. I remember that, injuring about 1,000 people. Objects similar to asteroid 2003 QQ23 frequently venture relatively close to Earth. Around 6 rocks of the same volume approach Earth each year. Oh, and you got old Tyson here. He's warning of the harbinger of doom asteroid. Don't worry, but worry. Mars asteroid tsunami. Ancient impact that triggered a 1,000-foot tsunami. Pictures. NASA said there are 900 asteroids with a diameter more than 1 kilometer orbiting Earth around the Sun. Yeah, have you ever seen a picture of it? It looks crazy. While the biggest is nearly 34 kilometers wide. The U.S. Space Administration and other countries' agencies catalog and track space objects. According to NASA, if any object passes too close to Earth, then it would launch a space campaign to deflect the object. One of the asteroid hunters said,
"I know what you're thinking, punk.
There could be space rocks they don't know about, which could pose a threat to Earth." Yeah, I think one came really close to Earth in 2003, and it came from the area of the Sun, and they never saw it until it whizzed by. It came underneath a couple of our satellites, if I'm not mistaken. A 390-foot rock will scrape Earth closer than the Moon. NASA believes there could even be more water on the Moon. And we also have UFO creators look exactly like us, says author who backs Einstein's theory. Lyle, not going to get far with me back in Einstein. Anyone who can think clearly knows that he was wrong. But I'm not going to say anything bad about him because he did go against the grain during the Velikovsky affair. As a matter of fact, Velikovsky's book was on his desk when he died. He was reading it, Worlds in Collision. That's what I hear. Let's take a look and see what's going on with the old astrophysical journals. Discovery of a visual T-dwarf triple system and binary at the LT transition. The LT transition. Large amplitude variations of an LT transition brown dwarf. Large amplitude? Sounds like he's talking about charge, electricity. A triple brown dwarf system was found. Discovery of a visual T-dwarf triple system and binary at the LT transition. We present new high-contrast imaging of 8 LT transition brown dwarfs, BDs, using the NIR-C2 camera on the Keck 2 telescope. One of our targets, the T3.5 dwarf 2 mass, a J and a bunch of numbers, was resolved into a hierarchical triple with projected separations of 2.5 to 0.5 AU, and 27 separations of 2.5 plus or minus 0.5 astronomical units, and 27 plus or minus 5 astronomical units for the BC, and a BC components, respectively, resolved OSIRIS spectroscopy of the A BC components confirms that all system members are T-dwarfs. The system, therefore, constitutes the first triple T-dwarf system ever reported, using resolved photometry to model the integrated light spectrum. We infer spectral types of T3 plus or minus 1, T3 plus or minus 1, and T4.5 plus or minus 1 for the A, B, and C components, respectively. The uniformly brighter primary has a bluer J, K's color than the faintest component. I have no idea what that means. Oh, wait a minute. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. It means we have no idea how brown dwarf stars illuminate themselves because we insist to continue to think there are fusion reactions in the core. But since a brown dwarf doesn't get hot enough, we just kind of don't talk about that. Instead, we make up fancy, hard-to-comprehend equations in Latin. Dazzle you with our double talk. That's what that means. Which may reflect a sensitive dependence of the LT transition temperature on gravity, or alternately divergent cloud properties among components. Mainstream, bless their hearts, they think that the brown dwarf's plasma sheath is a cloud layer. That's just because they want us to think they think that. I don't really believe that they think that. Relying on empirical trends of evolutionary models, we infer to a total system mass of 0.034 to 0.104. I don't have any idea what, those numbers. They make it complicated on purpose. But we know gravity is a magnetic dipole effect, so the gravity numbers they got here are worthless. 12 to 21 year, assuming the system semi-major axis to be similar to its projection. That's all shop talk. They want to befuddle you with shop talk. So there you go. Oh, okay. Scratch your head and then walk away. It suggests that the system may have been able to survive a dynamical ejection during formation. I wonder what that means. Combining our imaging survey results with previous work, we find an observed binary fraction of blah, 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 blah for unresolved spectral types of blah, 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 blah. A volume-corrected frequency of Sorry, man, they really get to me sometimes. But anyways, there is a triple brown dwarf system. First one ever found, but not the first one ever. Brown dwarfs do hang out in packs. Dazzle you with our double talk.
Come on, John, think fast.
Here, say something smart.
Quantum.
The nearby late M star, Gliese 569b, was recently found by adaptive optics imaging to be a double binary with separation of less than 1 AU. To explore the orbital motion and masses, we have undertaken a high-resolution astronomic study. Images were obtained over 1.5 years by spectrum, speckle interferometry, see what I tell you about them words, at the 6.5 meter multiple mirror telescope.
Yeah.
They say nothing by using the biggest words they can in the most incomprehensible way. I just think that's just to make themselves look smart. Of course, we know there are double and triple binary systems out there. Matter of fact, they're all over the place. It is more like that than it isn't. But here's another article that you might be able to relate to. Brown dwarfs don't hang out with stars. Let's see what they say is the reason. Brown dwarfs, objects that are less massive than stars, but larger than planets, just got more elusive because scientists are shocked, stunned, based on a study of 233 nearby multiple star systems by NASA's Hubble Space Telescope. Hubble found only 2 brown dwarfs as companions to normal stars. This means the so-called brown dwarf desert, the absence of brown dwarfs around solar-type stars, extends to the smallest stars in the universe. And they still don't know why. But the electric universe people do. We still did not find brown dwarfs around small red stars. whose mass is only slightly above the hydrogen burning limit, especially when we consider the fact that brown dwarf binaries do exist. The triple trinaries do too. The fact that there are very few binaries whose components lie on different sides of the hydrogen burning limit is significant. And they don't even bother trying to decipher how a brown dwarf, which is not hot enough to burn fusion at the core, still illuminates itself. Khan searches for nearby stars through analyzing existing all-sky surveys, combined with observations by a variety of telescopes in both hemispheres. A total of 12 brown dwarfs are currently known within 32.6 light-years of Earth, as compared to 239 red dwarf stars. Stars that are largely 20% the mass of our Sun and roughly half its diameter and temperature. And there you have it. In fact, the number of brown dwarfs is close to that of known extrasolar planets. However, the number of extrasolar planets known in this region so far is very likely only a lower limit, as smaller mass exoplanets are not within our capability of detection at present. The reason is because stars are electric, and their plasma discharge, or shine, is fed from the galactic core, or the arms. Although many things could happen, there is one thing that seems quite sure, and that is key to, it seems, any and all movement. Berkeley currents go from galactic size to, who knows, microscopic. So if you're a red or a brown dwarf, you all of a sudden come into the vicinity of a main cycle star, also known as a main sequence star, that has a much larger antenna, and it's going to simply just swipe their current stream, and they will diffuse, perhaps nova. They have to balance their charge, acclimate to their new surroundings, and brown dwarfs and red dwarfs are known to shed a lot of water, chlorine and salt, which is the reason why we have salty oceans. And they're relegated to being a gas giant at that time. If the sun were to somehow disappear, they would most likely reignite and become brown dwarf stars again. Very many people have never heard the term Berkeley current. They have no idea. Berkeley currents are also your main source for spirals and targets.
Soldiers, don't give yourselves to brutes. Men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, and what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men, machine men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines. You are not cattle. You are men.
Alien bombshell UFO base found on the moon. NASA knows it's there. Bizarre claim. NASA keeps returning to the moon because they have discovered an alien base. Conspiracy theorists have shockingly claimed. Despite there being no scientific evidence to support the notion that aliens live on the moon, some alien hunters are still convinced by the idea. They're being completely impartial, aren't they? And the latest image, which supposedly shows the base on the surface of the moon, will do nothing to dampen enthusiasm of proponents of the alien moon theory. Extraterrestrials are living on the moon, where they are developing mysterious technology, according to alien hunters. NASA therefore determined to return to the moon so they can gather alien intel to copy ET's technology, because that's what it's all about. They just want to get their hands on that saucer. Leading alien enthusiast Scott C. Waring made the bizarre claims after spotting several oddities in the
Chelkovsky.
Oh, where's the Velikovsky crater? Located near to the south of the moon. Mr. Waring wrote on ET database, "There are so many alien structures and disks in this photo. It's just unbelievable." Now, we know why NASA kept going back again and again. It was to gather alien intel on the cities on the moon and make a possible alien tech retrieval mission. Is this proof? Let's check it out. It's 30 seconds long.
I was taken into the laboratory where the equipment was malfunctioning.
Oh, that's that
I
wolf
couldn't
guy.
repair it in the dark. I asked to have it removed.
He died, by the way.
Airman
This past
second
summer.
class was in the dark room at that time. I was clearly in these photographs were structures, mushroom-shaped buildings, spherical buildings, and towers. And at that point, I was very concerned because I knew we were working at compartmentalized security. He had breached security, and I was actually frightened at that moment.
Yeah, I would be too. They're gonna come kill you. Oh, the old sod ain't what it used to be. But then again, it never was. This is not the first time a mysterious structure has been found on the lunar surface. Some conspiracy theorists, I should just replace that with truth seeker. Some truth seekers claim the moon could be occupied by aliens, and that is the reason NASA has not returned since the Apollo missions ended in the 1970s. Yeah, I'm starting to waver on that a little bit. I've seen a couple of programs where the evidence they offer up is pretty damning. I really hate to say that, and I don't want to go there, but there are a lot of questions. They suspect findings such as this pyramid and other anomalies could be monuments built by an ancient alien civilization similar to the pyramids or other structures on Earth. However, skeptics and NASA say the pyramid and other similar findings are just the effects of pareidolia. Well, the fact that NASA says that, you can use them as a reverse barometer. Everything they say, just believe the opposite, because they're lying. Pareidolia. I wonder why is it that we're wired to see faces, nothing is done for nothing. Hey, I make that turn into a quote. Psychological phenomena when the brain tricks the eyes into seeing familiar objects. That's ridiculous.
I know what you're thinking, Bunk.
Astronomers discover 12 new moons orbiting Jupiter, one on collision course with others. A head-on collision between two Jovian moons would create a crash so large it would be visible from Earth. Alright, let's look into this one. I heard about it, but I haven't read about it yet. So here we go. 12 new moons discovered around Jupiter is circling the planet on a suicide orbit that will eventually lead to its violent destruction, astronomers say. Researchers in the U.S. stumbled upon the new moons while hunting for a mysterious ninth planet that is postulated to lurk far beyond the orbit of Neptune, the most distant planet in the solar system. The team first glimpsed the moons in March last year from the Cerro Tololo Inter-American Observatory in Chile, but needed more than a year to confirm that the bodies were locked in orbit around the gas giant. It was a long process, said Scott Shepard, who led the effort at Carnegie Institute for Science in Washington, D.C. Jupiter, the largest planet in the solar system, was hardly short of moons. Before the latest findings, the fresh haul of natural satellites brings the total number of Jovian moons to 79, more than are known to circle any other planet in our cosmic neighborhood. Now, why is it that you think Jupiter continues to keep coughing up moons? Unlike the group of inner prograde moons, new prograde Velotudo has an orbit that crosses the retrogrades. Oh boy. I think they're little, though. I don't think they're very big. But still, it wasn't there before. Now, whether it's a captured body or Jupiter actually coughed it up remains to be seen. But it's obvious something's going on with all the moons that it has already. 9 of the new moons belong to an outer group that orbit Jupiter in retrograde, meaning they travel in the opposite direction to the planet's spin. They are thought to be the remnants of larger parent bodies that were broken apart in collisions with asteroids, comets, and with other moons. Each takes about 2 years to circle the planet. 2 more of the moons are in a group that circle much closer to the planet in prograde orbits, which travel in the same direction as Jupiter's spin, most likely to be pieces of a once larger moon that was broken up in orbit. They take nearly a year to complete a lap around Jupiter. Which direction the moons swing around the planet depends on how they were first captured by Jupiter's gravitational field. Astronomers describe the 12th new Jovian moon as an oddball, less than a kilometer wide. The tiny body circles Jupiter on a prograde orbit. I don't even know if that qualify as a moon, would it? But at a distance, that means it crosses the path of other moons hurtling towards it. Scientists have named the new moon Velotudo. Velotudo after the Roman god Jupiter's great-granddaughter, the goddess of health and hygiene. Given the impending violence, it may be more than coincidence that Velotudo, which translates from Portuguese as anything goes, is an early form of full-contact mixed martial arts. Velotudo is like driving down the highway on the wrong side of the road, said Shepard. It is moving prograde, while the other objects at a similar distance from Jupiter are moving retrograde. Thus, head-on collisions are likely. Shepard, whose report appears in the International Astronomical Union Minor Planet Electronic Circular, suspects that Velotudo is the final remnant of a once much larger moon that has been ground to dust by collisions in the past, which raises the question of how long the tiny moon has left. Collisions don't happen all that frequently, every billion years or so, said Shepard. If one did happen, we would be able to detect it from Earth, but it is unlikely to happen anytime soon. Yes. Get the right name. I better turn this off. I'm rambling. Gloms on to the bandwagon. I'm a glommer.
Read some of it. I watched the Grand Jerry Show.
In the middle of these democracies, you have the state within the state known as the national security state. And that state is capable of the most unspeakable crimes that you can think of. And those crimes are perpetrated against their own people. They're perpetrated against people all around the world. Not long ago, I got a letter from a woman who's been a community organizer in Chicago. And she said with grief in her heart, she said, I remember the 60s. I remember the tremendous democratic organization and leadership that was developing in the Latino and African American communities. And I remember those leaders, and every single one of them today is either dead, shot by the police, or in Marion prison on trumped-up charges. And I remember the demoralization that took place, the shattering of those organizations. And after those organizations were shattered and demoralized, then in came the drug traffickers. And those drug traffickers, the thing I remember the most about them is that they were aided and abetted by the feds, by the federal agents themselves. And this is what happens. That is, we are dealing with a state that was engaged in domestic counterinsurgency. And it was more interested in having a population that was unorganized and demoralized than a population that was organized, that was effectively fighting for its democratic rights. Because if it's organized and it's effective and it's powerful, it will start making demands and start pursuing its interests, and it will start cutting in on the interests that those police and those coppers and those undercover people and those forces of military and law and order are dedicated to protecting the status quo, protecting those with property against those who don't have it. And by the way, for the last 1,000 years, we've had theorists who've made that point, except they make it proudly. Adam Smith said, as the divisions of property become increasingly unequal, it is more and more necessary to have a state to defend those who have property from those who do not.
I've always been into the subject of these vehicle-looking type craft by the sun that Soho takes pictures of. I've got quite a few of them. Many of them look like spaceships, and some don't look like much anything. But considering how big the sun is, even just a little dot is something that's as big or bigger than the Earth. And these ships, it's just, if those ships are real, then the creatures in them must be, I don't know, who knows, 5-10 miles tall. It's just crazy. But maybe it's something else. I don't know. I did hear some crazy story about UFOs shooting things that the sun's blowing out to protect Earth, but that's just, I always just kind of viewed that as hyperbole. UFO sighting, NASA satellite snaps alien spacecraft bigger than Earth near sun. Then I see this, right? An alien UFO has been photographed by a NASA satellite orbiting the sun. A self-styled ET expert has outlandishly announced. Well, these guys, you know, the Express. I think it's kind of cool because I like wild and crazy stories. You know, it doesn't mean it's true just because it's printed, but it doesn't mean we can't entertain a thought and have a little fun with it too. The NASA Solar and Heliospheric Observatory, SOHO, mission is the U.S. Space Agency's method for learning about the sun's structure and solar atmosphere. Since it began orbiting our star more than 2 decades ago, the NASA Space Telescope has made innumerable breakthroughs, from understanding the sun's violent solar storm turning its powerful magnetic field. However, UFO hunter Scott Waring, that's the same guy who had the moon base, believes NASA's SOHO, he's got some kind of an inside link, well, maybe he knows what he's doing, believes NASA's SOHO has now made its most amazing discovery yet, spotting a huge alien spacecraft flying close to the star. Boring took to his database and to speculate about the dubious find. And if you can't see it right now, it kind of looks like a ringworm. No, it kind of looks like maybe a serpent. It's got a really long tail and it's humped in the middle. Wow, that's the best I can describe it. It almost looks like a worm. Solar worms. Wow. All right, where was I? Since it began orbiting our star more than 2 decades ago. Yeah, I love. I always think that there's a good possibility that the people at NASA really kind of want to get this stuff out, but they can't because they can't be blatant about it. So what would stop them from building a rapport with some guy like over here at one of those quote-unquote kook magazines, and for them to really be putting out the truth? You never know. Is the fourth dimension the key to time traveling? No, but it might be the key to space traveling. The alien life conspiracy theorist estimates UFO must at least be 10 times the size of Earth. And Waring thinks constructing such enormous spaceship would be easily feasible for technologically advanced alien cultures. He wrote, "Imagine you are an alien, and you want to build an object bigger than planet Earth. Well, it's not too hard if the planet you evolved from is 13.5 billion years old. All right, that puts us around 10 billion years behind them. Then, imagine the technological advances alien species could make in 10 billion years. They would be godlike. Here is such a species orbiting our sun. Yeah, they're probably like our babysitters, or maybe they're creators. Who knows? All the aliens need to do is order their AI robots to build these huge UFOs for them. These robots will harvest the necessary materials, hopefully not from our solar system, from other planets, or mine asteroids to create the spaceship. I can see that. I can picture that. And Waring, who regularly accuses NASA of covering up evidence of alien life, claims the space agency may have done so with this image. Yeah, we're probably like a little colony of ants right off the edge of a freeway, right? And we think we're alone. He wrote, "I tried to find the photo again and discovered NASA, helioviewer.org, won't allow me to see it." Oh, that's terrible. I hate it when they do that. But no, he's probably right. They probably do. Like, oh, that's too much. Get back. Knowing the sun's radius to be 695,510 kilometers, they could, just for the heck of it, just for snicks, they could put miles there too. I mean, we're not Europeans. Come on, give me a break. I have no idea how many miles that is. I know miles are more or less, right? No, miles are more. And speed, miles an hour, the register's lower. The alien life conspiracy theorist estimates, knowing the sun's radius to be 695,510 kilometers, the alien life conspiracy theorist estimates, I should just call him Randy, the UFO to be at least 10, okay, reading all my lines twice, man. Yeah, that are about 10 miles tall. Can you imagine that? He wrote, "Imagine you are an alien and you want to build an object bigger than planet Earth. No doubt. What do? Do you steal some civilization planet? What do you got, excuse me, I have to borrow your planet. I'm going to build a spaceship. I just see their face. I pick up faces everywhere and everything just about. Okay. And, well, it is not too hard if the planet you evolved from is 13.5 billion years old. I was going to say 19.5. Hold on a second. I got to check some, man. There either. UFOs usually have a long dragonfly-like tail in their back, but this one doesn't, which is very strange. There's all kinds of stuff going on. Probably know about the UFO that the Navy pilots chase, the Tic Tac thing. There's a video on YouTube about it. It's pretty good. It's called Nimitz Encounters. Well, where's it bursting out of the sun? Okay, I see a picture of the sun here. Okay, it's not moving. This one goes back to the Thoth newsletter. It's a short and sweet letter written by Clark W. on the Arctic climate changes in the trees. There are some 45 million-year-old trees that they went to investigate. It's a pretty short article, but I thought you might enjoy it like I did. The appeal to continental drift does not explain the well-preserved remains of temperate forest discovered on Axel Heiberg Island, which at 79 degrees north latitude is deep within the Arctic Circle. Articles in Canadian Geographic, Volume 106, Number 6, and Equinox, May-June 1986, describe the surprise that awaited a member of the Geological Survey off Canada when he arrived on Axel Heiberg in 1985. He had found the remains of a 45 million-year-old forest just 1,100 kilometers from the North Pole. The sense of being transported into the past is made all the more real by the remarkable preservation of the fossils. The wood swamp, cypress, and dawn-like freshly cut wood. That's right, freshly cut wood. It splits in splinters. It can be carved with a knife, and it burns as readily as kindling. Most impressive of all, it still has that reddish hue we often find in softwood lumber. The thing missing is the scent of fresh wood. The fallen tree trunks of the deciduous trees and their still rooted stumps were perfectly preserved. Beneath a layer of silt were found well-preserved leaf mats. Sorting through these mats is much like probing beneath a modern forest. On Ellesmere Island, also in the high Arctic, have been found tree trunks so perfectly preserved they give the illusion of having fallen yesterday rather than 50 million years ago. Growth ring, a sign of seasonality. The Arctic trees had been growing in swamps, which were also inhabited by alligators and giant salamanders, and numerous other tropical and temperate fauna. It's not clear how deciduous trees and reptiles survived 6 months of Arctic dark, let alone the accompanying cold. And regarding continental drift, Axel Heiberg is today only a few hundred kilometers closer to the North Pole than it was when these forests flourished. Now, this is by Clark W. And you know, the thing is this was in 1997, and all of these, I mean, how many times does someone have to be beaten in the head with facts before it becomes obvious that they must be walking around with toilet paper stuck to their heads like morons? They're just ignoring the truth. So it makes me so mad. I can't believe they get away with it. Anyways, I thought that was an interesting article. You know, that was what, 20 years ago? I mean, just think, if they would have been listened to, how much further ahead we would be. But of course, they don't want us far. They want us down blind. There's probably so many different kinds of life in the universe, we don't even have a clue. We only know what's on the head of a pin. I have a couple of things to show you just before I close this down. The reason why I made that crack about the Earth's age, and you know, I've always believed it was, or thought it was less than 4 billion years old, or is less, and somewhere probably not even close, but I recently ran into an article over here on the Thoth newsletter again. It's just chocked full of little nuggets, and it's by Dr. Robert Bass. I remember Ted telling me about him, and if Ted knows about him, the guy's probably got it going on. He wrote an article in here, or an essay, called Age Limits of the Earth's Biosphere. And it's kind of an eye-opener. I'm just going to read a couple paragraphs of it. Age of the Earth's Biosphere by Dr. Robert Bass. Recently, I spoke on the phone with my old friend, Nitro Nobel medalist and physical chemist, Dr. Melvin Cook, who is now 85 and totally blind. Cook received a special gold medal in Stockholm in '68. One of Cook's most extraordinary breakthroughs came when he discovered by accident, and then explained theoretically, the remarkable phenomenon of a fully ionized plasma in the state of a liquid metal rather than a gas, which is what all conventional plasma theorists believe is the only possibility. Though he is not infallible, he is certainly a genius who has made very important discoveries, and his works on prehistory merit serious study. Cook is the author of a highly scientific, very quantitative, and very difficult to read book, Prehistory in Earth Models, published in London by Max Parrish and Company in 1966, but now out of print. The book is highly condensed, and reading is complicated by use of three-letter acronyms. Oh, jeez. For almost every technical term the second time. Oh, well, that's not too bad. Still be tough, though. All later times, but the book is, in my opinion, extremely valuable. In 1993, Dr. Cook, a retired professor of metallurgy at the University of Utah, updated PEM, that was the name of his book, by a new book, Scientific Prehistory. 336 pages, many photos, tables, drawings, and graphs. Library of Congress catalog, card number 9374404. This is a leather-covered hardcover book. Cook had 150 copies printed and placed in 150 libraries, so it can be borrowed. But I don't believe that any copies are available for sale. Anyways, he gives you Cook's address here, but this was in 1997, keep in mind. Get to the nitty-gritty here. I believe that this material on solar nuclides would interest plasma cosmologists such as Wal Thornhill. Like the late Ralph Jurgens, who had an isothermal model of the sun, Cook does not believe in the conventional fusion energy explanation of the sun's energy. He provides evidence that all of the sun's energy can be explained by the observed rate of matter falling into the sun, rate of accretion. Cook has chapters on all of the radiometric dating methods, and in my opinion demolishes them all. He also computes that if the cosmic rays are in nuclear thermodynamic equilibrium, and Earth are about 4.5 billion years old. However, the surface features of the Earth cannot possibly be more than 100,000 years old for many reasons. For example, the editor of Nature admitted this is the biggest anomaly which ever crossed his desk. The radiogenic helium escaping from the Earth's crust at a known rate and escaping into outer space at a known rate prove that the present atmosphere cannot be more than 100,000 years old. See, where is the Earth's radiogenic helium? Nature magazine, volume 177, 1957, a good year. Also, radiocarbon is being produced in the stratosphere at a rate of 25%, discrepant with its well-measured absorption into the hydrosphere, lithosphere, and biosphere. Cook once showed me correspondence he had with Willard Libby over 25 years, wherein Libby finally admitted he was wrong. The discrepancy is real and cannot be ignored. The deduction is that Earth's atmosphere cannot be more than 30,000 years old, else it would have attained equilibrium already, which it has not. In Cook's view, the radiocarbon balance in the Earth's atmosphere has attained 73% of its equilibrium value in the approximately 5,000 years since the flood. In his latest unpublished paper, Cook is providing evidence for a theory that the flood resulted from a combination of his ice cap model tipping the Earth or its crust as a result of a certain asteroid impact. Well, he's a mainstream guy, okay? But here it says, physicist Dr. Larry Vardaman. Usually when they say the word physicist, I run the other way, but, you know, I guess there might be a few fair ones around. I could concede that possible. Larry Vardaman has jumped on the helium escape problem and written a 32-page mathematical paper. 32 pages of mathematical equation. Crazy. The Age of the Earth's Atmosphere, a study of the helium flux through the atmosphere, 1990, in which he reviews in detail dozens of mainstream attempts to explain away the anomaly. Well, of course, that's what they're going to. And satisfied me as a professional mathematically who checked his differential equations that they have failed, and that the present atmosphere could have been produced in at the very most 2 million years. This, of course, is 2,500 times shorter than the uniformitarian age of the Earth. He quotes mainstream experts as admitting that this helium escape problem will not go away, and it is unsolved. So this gentleman is claiming that the Earth is no more than 2 million years old. You remember when, if you saw my interviews with Ted, he said that at the most he thought it might be 5 million, and at the lowest 750,000 years. People probably scoffed at that. But, you know, I mean, 1 million years is a long time. People don't even really realize it. They talk about it like it's a month. You know, you get these guys on here, you know, in 5 billion years there will be a last perfect day on Earth. You know, they can't. They have no way of knowing. It could come a lot sooner or last longer. Who knows? But there's one more thing here. Vardaman has also written an impressive-looking paper on the ice core dating method, which I have not studied myself. At the recent Portland Conference on Planetary Violence in Human History, Dr. Paul LaViolette, I know Paul LaViolette, disputed the Hapgood Earth crust slippage theory. Yeah, I don't agree with that either. As argued by Rand and Rose Flem Ath to place Plato's lost continent of Atlantis under Lesser Antarctica, which was supposedly in the temperate zone up until 10,500 years ago, by means of ice core dating. Hence, Vardaman's study of the flaws and fallacies in that method should be of interest to Dr. LaViolette. And he goes on to show where the problem is with the Earth slippage model, and he continues to talk a little bit more about the Earth's age. Simon Newcomb, this Cambridge-trained astronomer, then fit the observations with a dynamical model of the Earth as a spinning top, and showed that the observations indicated that the axis of the Earth was stabilizing in a new position after the entire Earth had turned over about 2500 BC. Yeah. I also have to admit that I have not checked out the mathematical accuracy of it, but I just wanted to share that with you. I think that's pretty interesting. It's very possible the Earth could be no more than 2 million years old. It kind of shoots the 4.5 billion year Earth in the head. Puts it out of its misery. I was figuring anywhere from 5 to 10 million, so I was figuring high too. How about that? Not one dating method is reliable. Also, you have to know that Robert Bass is a good guy. He was forced to resign his tenure at Brigham Young University because he got involved with Velikovsky, and he writes on it briefly here. He was an American mathematician, principal inventor of the Topolotron, and retired professor of physics and astronomy at Brigham Young University. 10 years he was tenured, and I mean, that's just so crappy. He calls it a voluntary resignation. In 2007, Bass revealed that he had been forced to retire from Brigham Young University. I mean, it's almost impossible to get a tenured professor out. They got him out early after attending a 1978 Glasgow conference on Velikovsky. The reason that I never communicated further with Dr. Velikovsky after he kindly met me in his home in Princeton and paid for half of my expenses to the Glasgow conference is that when I returned from the conference, I was greeted by the news that a secret 3-man committee at BYU, well, I don't have to tell you about Brigham Young. If you don't know about it, maybe you should learn. It's a pretty interesting fella. Had voted to recommend upon the basis of trumped-up false charge that I should be dismissed for cause. The academic vice president recommended that I should appeal, citing someone the year before had won, but instead I negotiated a deal under which I would take an earned sabbatical and then a 1-year leave without pay in order to complete a full decade and become eligible for retirement benefit, which I am now enjoying at $358.78 a month. Ah, damn, kind of hard to live on that. But this is a guy, he's another one of those guys. His integrity and the truth meant more to him than a paycheck. They're rare, as I'm sure you know. Back in September of 2015, 4 years ago, NASA released some images taken by the New Horizons space probe from its trip to Pluto. As it made its flyby, its closest flyby of the dwarf planet. And it's about the clearest I've ever seen Pluto, But there is something odd about it. I'm about to show you. Now, some people are saying that there are a couple of UFOs in a certain photo. Here's one of the photos in the air. There's been a lot of hullabaloo lately about cigar-shaped UFOs, and there just happens to be 3 of them in the air on Pluto, and you should be able to see them right away. There's got to be something to that. We see them everywhere. I could just imagine if it's us, Earthlings. They're probably sitting out there parked, in Pluto, thinking nobody'd bother them, and I'll be damned, we can't even go to Pluto without getting busted. They're pretty good pictures, though. Looks pretty convincing to me. These things are being seen virtually everywhere. And of course now, they've gone and devised balloons, high-altitude balloons that look like these cigar-shaped craft. Of course they did. We sure live in a crazy world, don't we? Here it looks like a UFO is resting against the International Space Station. And I don't know what these things are. They could be fakes, I admit it. I'm not making a statement. I'm just saying, isn't this interesting? I don't know what to think about that whole thing. So I just don't. I just look at it and be entertained for now. No. All right, well, I'm racing the clock again. I know you guys are waiting for it, so I'm going to close it down, process it up, and get the first episode of 2001 Space Oddities to you. It's a new series that I'm going to continue from time to time. I just wanted to show where I could do anything I want, whether it's science or aliens or whatever technology, it'll land here, okay? And I wanted to thank my Patreons and PayPal supporters. If it wasn't for you guys, I don't know what I would do. I appreciate everything you do for me. Please comment, like, share. Oh, and I'd like to start doing some guest pieces for some people who I really like the work that you're doing, and I'd like to highlight you on my show for, I don't know, 10 to 15 minutes for some kind of an essay or anything. So if you're interested, let me know and we'll line it up. All right. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Take care, and I'll see you on down the road.
The field around the craft is expanded and produces a white glow around the dark, hot, and concentrated field flow into the superconductor. Basic thermodynamics in plain view.
Bond. James Bond.
James Madison, Alexander Hamilton. The only difference was that when Marx said it, he said, to defend those who have property from those whose labor is expropriated by those who accumulate wealth off their labor, who have all the property. He changed it a little bit. And he said it wasn't just haves and have-nots, it was haves taking it from those who produced it and created the haves. And throughout the world, dominant economic interests today have enlisted the efforts of assassins and torturers. As we talk at this moment, the CIA and other such agencies in this country and other countries have sponsored violence, torture, death squads, drugs in scores of countries, from Zaire to Angola to Mozambique to... I've never said this before. I never said it. It's the first time I'm saying it. But I worked for Army Intelligence, and in 1963 I was in Japan. And when and the accepted word around then was that Kennedy would be killed because he was messing too much with the intelligence community. And when word came of his death, we were, all I could hear were delighted comments like, "We got the bastard." What JFK's enemies saw what they saw was something different from what Chomsky and Coburn have seen. They fixed on Kennedy's refusal to provide air coverage of the Bay of Pigs, his refusal to go in with U.S. forces, his unwillingness to launch another invasion of Cuba, his no invasion guarantee to Khrushchev on Cuba, his atmospheric test ban treaty with Moscow, his American University speech calling for a re-examination of our Cold War attitudes toward the Soviet Union, his unwillingness to send ground forces in a massive form into Vietnam, his antitrust suit against General Electric, his fight with U.S. Steel over price increases, his challenge to the Federal Reserve Board, his warm reception at labor convention, activists and such. Tens of thousands have been murdered and assassinated to prevent social change, to destroy any kind of redistributive politics, any kind of government, any kind of social movement that is not willing to reduce its people to economic fodder. And with NAFTA, with the North American Free Trade Agreement, we now see the third worldization of the USA will continue full speed ahead. The gangster nature of the state is cloaked by the democratic facade and by the democratic substance of the government. I mean, there is some democratic substance there. Democratic victories have been won, we have struggled, and certain things have been won. And yet, unendingly ascribe a host of mass psychology motivations and emotional needs to those of us who are concerned about the JFK assassination. They psychologize about our illusions, our false dreams, our longings for messiahs and father figures, our inability to face unpleasant realities the way they can. They deliver patronizing admonitions about our conspiracy captivation and Camelot yearnings. They urge us not to escape into fantasy. They are the cognoscenti who guide us and outleft us on the JFK assassination, a subject about which they don't know a goddamn thing, and whose significance they will never be able and have not been able to grasp. I have a different name for our interests. It is not JFK worship, it's not Camelot yearnings, as the left critics would say. It's not big evils and conspiracy titillation, as the mainstream media would say. Our interest is born of democratic struggle, a desire to know what is going on, a desire to have rulers who are worthy of our name and the name of democracy. Thank you.